in this video, I'm going to show you a really easy shortcut actually on how to get triads down on the guitar. One of the easiest ways that you can understand triads on the guitar, specifically the inversions, because that's kind of what this video is about. So what we'll do first is we'll make sure that you know a little bit of theory with these triads. Okay, number two, I'm going to show you exactly where they are on the fretboard. It's going to be really easy. Okay, I'm going to show you the minor version and the major version. Okay, and then I'm going to talk about just some cool things that you can do with those triads. Okay, so the first thing obviously is the music theory. So when it comes to triad music theory, the formula that I always talk about on here is R3/5 or root third fifth, which essentially means that whatever the first note is of the triad, you count up a third from that note and you count up a fifth from your root. So you can either count root up a third and then up a fifth from the root, or you can count up another third from the third. So it's kind of easier to put it into a sort of example. So if I was in the key of C major, right, and I had a C major triad, all I'd really have to think about is C is my root, right? A third above C, C, D, E. Always count where you start as 1, so C, D, E. Then up another third from E is F, G. C, D, E, F, G. That's up a fifth. So C, E, G would be my root, my third, and my fifth. So when you ever hear somebody play something like a C chord, that's essentially what you're looking at. If you ever hear somebody play a G chord, all that is G, B, and then D. So that's essentially how triads work. Now, the hard part that people have with triads is knowing really quick if they're major or minor. So there are a lot of ways that you can tell the difference. What I always tell my students is just get your freaking keys down. Because if you get your keys down, your key signatures is what I'm talking about, you're going to know exactly if there's a sharp or a flat, if it's major or minor, etc., etc. So the easy, quote-unquote, way, which I don't think it's as easy because you kind of have to do some math, is the whole step, half step method, because what you need to understand is the difference between a major third versus a minor third. So this is how it works, okay? You remember earlier when I said C, E, G, okay? C to E is 4 frets away, okay? So C is on the 8th fret, E is on the 12th fret. 1, 2, 3, 4. If we're not counting where we start as 1, like the regular thing that we were counting. So if that's the case, if we're counting up to 4 frets, that's your major third, okay? Now, if you count up from the 3rd to the 5th, E to G, that's 3 frets up. We're going to call that a minor third, okay? If you hear the difference of them together, C to E, major third. Nice and happy. But then a minor third, E to G, got a little bit of a darker sound, but when you put them together, it overall sounds very happy. Now, if we lower the third note by a half step, so instead of C, E, G, we're going to do C, E, flat, G, okay? It sounds really dark and scary, right? That's called a minor triad, okay? Or minor third, so C to E flat, up 3 frets, and then E flat to G, up 4 frets. So the difference of a major triad and a minor triad all has to do with the third, okay? That's pretty much how the theory works. If you know the circle of fifths really well, you can literally just think about the exact key signature and scale degree, right? Because if you know, for example, if I said that you were in the key of like F minor for something, for this example, and I said that, yeah, you're playing a 5 chord, right? And it's not dominant, it's just regular, you would know that the 5 chord is going to be minor, and the root of that is C, right? F, G, A, B, C. The triad would be C, E, flat, G. So that's the mindset that you want to have, in my opinion, is you want to get really quick at that if you want to get really fast at that. So before we move on, I just want to remind you, my masterclass is live right now. So if you are a guitar player and you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like all this music theory, all this technique, and all this crazy stuff is kind of overwhelming you, but you really want to achieve your dreams of either being in a band for fun, you know, doing it full time, or if you want to just live that guitarist lifestyle of actually being a really good, respected musician for yourself, maybe for your, you know, family or for your friends or whatever, or if you want to be around other musicians, you just want to be a really awesome lead guitar player, click the link below, book a session with me. I'll walk you through the entire structure of the curriculum. We've got 4 Zoom classes a week where we help you with everything that you need. Okay, you're going to have my incredible curriculum. Okay, the systems that we have in place work extremely well. It's been tweaked and proven, and it always is getting better and better. So if you feel like you want to do that, go ahead. It's a free session, so go ahead and do that. So anyways, when we're talking about those triads here, what we really need to know about them is how do we put them on the guitar? Okay, since we already have the music theory down, okay, we're going to put them on the guitar and we're going to see how that works. So for this example, we're going to be in the key of B minor on the 7th fret of the low E string. Okay, so if you're doing this with me, just go to the 7th fret of the low E string and this will all make sense. So usually chords start like this. They look like power chords. That's usually what people do when they think of like, oh, if somebody says B minor, they usually do this, or maybe they'll go up here on the 2nd fret of the A string and they'll do that as their root. But the thing is music theory in of itself will tell you not necessarily a different story, but just in my opinion, a cooler sounding story. So this is why I love classical music theory so much. So check this out. So when you do the standard chord like this, you go root, 5th, root, 3rd. Which sounds cool, right? But what if I just did root, 3rd, 5th? Now we got a nice more closed sounding chord, because you see, when you use fifths, this is a little off topic, but it's a kind of cool little fact for you. When you use fifths, you have a more open sound, which works in a lot of ways, but I like a closed harmony, like stack thirds and sixths. This is what you want if you like this sound instead of this. Okay, both have their place, but I love these. So we got root, which is 7th fret. We got 3rd, which is D, which is on the 5th fret of the A. And we got 5th, which is on the 4th fret of the D string, right? So 7, 5, 4 is your chord shape. Now, don't worry about any of the high strings. You don't necessarily need those right now. We would prefer that we just learn the triads on the lowest string first, okay? So, if that's kind of understood, what we're going to do from here, as long as you know the theory, because B up a third is D, and then D up another third is F sharp, because in the key signature of B minor, there's an F sharp, okay? If you don't have your key signatures down, bro, what are you doing? Get your key signatures down. I literally just made like a 40-minute video that walks you through the entire circle of fifths. I don't know why you're not watching that or you haven't watched that, but go watch that. So B, D, and F sharp is your notes. I want you to take note of that. The next thing that we're going to do, okay, is we're going to make sure that you understand what an inversion is, and we're going to move it over to the spot, and it's going to sound really cool. So BDF is root position, or BDF sharp. If we change the inversion, which basically means we're going to rearrange it so that way the 3rd or the 5th is on the bottom, we're going to do 3rd, 5th root. Okay, so it's kind of like you're flipping it around a little bit. So instead of B, D, F sharp, we're going to do D, F sharp, and then B. So we had the note D on the 5th fret with this shape. I want you to try to find that on the low E string for me. So if you count naturally, you should wound up on the 10th fret of the low E string. That's your note D. Then your note F sharp is on the A string of the 9th fret. And then conveniently there's a note B on the D string of the 9th fret, right there. If you're wondering how I know the fretboard really well, I use this thing called the 12-month practice plan. It's really simple. I just pick one key every single month and I go ham on it. There's a video that I have on the channel too, so click the link in the description if you want to get the whole fretboard down. So we have D, F sharp, and we have B. Pretty cool, right? Okay. So if that's understood now, we have root position, B, D, F sharp. Then we have first inversion, which is D, F sharp, B. You see how they sound similar, but they're not exactly the same? Right? Sounds pretty cool. Then we're going to do the second inversion, which if you're paying attention, F sharp is going to be on the bottom, which is the 5th. So we're on the 14th fret of the low E. That's your note F sharp. Then we need the note B, which is on the 14th fret of the A, and then we're going to do the 12th fret of the D string, which is going to be the note D. So we we have root, position, first inversion, and we have second inversion. And those are the only inversions that you need to know. Okay? Now, yes, you can do these on higher strings. For now, I would encourage you to just do this, because when you end up doing it on higher strings, you're basically doing a sweep. You're basically doing sweep shapes. And I have a video on this too. I'm sorry that I keep saying that I have videos on this, but I like making videos about this stuff because I'm really passionate about it. So for now, just focus on this, get the theory down. Now, let's talk about major shapes. So for the major shapes, we're going to use a D chord, because I think a D chord is going to be a really good example of how to do major inversions like that. So we're going to use the relative major, which is D major, right? So you're going to have D, F sharp, and A for your notes, okay? So we're going to be here on the 10th fret of the low E, the 9th fret of the A, and then the 7th fret of the D string. Nice. So if that's the case, we need to find this middle note on the low E string to create the inversion. F sharp, right there. Then we're going to have the 5th, which is A, and we have the D. So root, first inversion. And we're going to have second inversion, which, if you've been paying attention, the note A, we need to find on the low E string, which you could do it on the 5th fret, right here, or you can go all the way up to 17 if you're still going up. So you'd have A, which is the 17, and then D, which is the note D, which is 17th fret of the A, and all you need is an F sharp, okay, which in this position I would maybe just do this right here, so it'd be 5 5 4. So we have root position, then we have our first inversion, then we have up here our second inversion. Okay, so that's how inversions work on the fretboard, right? It's not that bad, right? Okay, so what you can do now is basically start doing this with chord progressions or scale degrees. So you can do the 1 chord, then maybe go to the 4, then maybe you can do like a 5 chord right there on F sharp, right? Then you go right here, you need a C sharp, right, which would be here. So we have A sharp, then you need a C sharp, then you need F sharp. Then you'd end up going to C sharp, F sharp, and then A sharp. Okay, so you can play around with those. That was like 1 4 5, right? But as long as you know your scale degrees really well, this shouldn't be too crazy of a problem, I hope. So that's how Triad inversion works. Let me know if you have any questions. Link below to the masterclass. I'll see you in the next video.